Give me 1 second here. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the PowerPoint that we're using here. And pardon the man behind the curtain, but there we go. So I'm Raleigh Way. I am from Alamo Colleges online, but I'm stationed at PAC 4 days a week virtually. And I'm an instructional designer, and I've been working with Joseph to sort of kick off this teaching circle that he's got in his department. And that's the topic of what we're talking about here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. You can see I'm one of the chairs in our professional and technical education area, which include business management, office management, the computing sciences, technology, viticulture, and horticulture. And I'm also joined by one of our folks. I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi guys, I'm Dr. Lattes. I'm one of the adjunct instructors at Palo Alto. I've been there for a year and a half now, I believe. And I teach in the business and office management departments.
Awesome. So now that we've introduced our awesome group, I had a chance to converse with a couple of you guys beforehand. So I know that just for future reference, Aurelia has a background in music and that's her discipline. I know Russ has just a number of different kind of interdisciplinary background in the EDUC 1300, has taught in the English as a second language area. Dr. Garcia, who teaches in both business and office management, Amanda with a background in music, and Scott with a political science government background. Is that right, Scott? Welcome.
That's correct. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. And then we also have Mallory on the call, and we also have, looks like someone just joined us, Elizabeth. If you wouldn't mind sharing, what is your discipline? What is your background, please?
Yeah, I am in teaching English, the language, especially teaching online with computer-assisted language learning.
Very cool. Thank you so much for joining us. We're just asking because we wanted to get a sense as we share feedback, as we collect feedback from you guys. And please know that because this is a smaller group, we're encouraging, questions, comments, and just, any type of feedback. So at times we'll engage with you guys just to determine any improvements you think we can make, because the program that we're going to share with you today, we've been doing it for about a year and a half, I believe, Raleigh. And so we're still, by no means view this as perfect. And this is something that we've been able to engage our students and faculty with. So let's go to the next slide, if we would. And, Raleigh and Dr. Lattes, if I say anything that maybe I shouldn't say or is inaccurate, they'll correct me. So I have, no worries about that. So just to give you some background, because a lot of us, it sounds like on the call primarily have taught in the arts and sciences side of the house, the core curriculum courses. And so in the PTE, or at some colleges, they call it CTE, Career and Technical Education, our students take approximately a total of 60 hours. And of those 60 hours, 45 of those courses are in the PTE in the specific discipline. Almost like if you attended, when you attended university, when you think about the last 60 hours that you took for your baccalaureate, most of those courses were discipline specific. And so the way our PTE programs are, it's very similar to that, where there is about 25% of the courses are gen ed or core curriculum found in the academic course guide manual, and nearly 3/4 are from the WECM or workforce, which include, if someone's studying for cybersecurity, they're going to take probably about 45 hours worth of courses related to cybersecurity. So in the business and computer occupations, another thing we want you to be aware of is most of our courses are taught by adjunct faculty. Particularly, most of the sophomore level courses are taught by adjunct faculty. So when you think about it, we've had a situation where, as opposed to a full-time faculty member where, a lot of meetings, they're, typically a little bit more accessible, our adjunct faculty have other obligations. And so, training and professional development are so important to provide that and creating a sense of community. And then the other thing is the professional development, just the minimal time and the high need to prepare them to deliver the courses quickly. In some cases, we've had adjuncts with very little time to prepare a course, and through the help of Raleigh and Mallory, we've been able to get them on board. And so this program is one means to strengthen the quality of our courses and our faculty offerings. Let's take a look. Any questions so far? All right, awesome. So just a little brief history. And thankfully, Raleigh was there from the very beginning of this. And so Raleigh, please correct me on any of this, but we started, even though the pilot was 2019 in the summer, it was really in I believe the 18-19 year where we came up with various standards that we called them Excellence in Online Design Course Standards. And although all of us have been certified to teach online through specific standards, these standards really kind of set the bar and were a little bit higher than the current than the standards we had before. And these standards were designed with the student in mind. And so with the help of Raleigh, he developed a PTE Canvas template that our faculty vetted. And this template was designed to create a sense of consistency for our students so that when our students are taking courses with that very first instructor to the very last, I'm not saying it's, exact, but in terms of structure, the layout, there's some similarities so that it's easier for them to navigate. And there have been 2 adjunct cohorts, and we have biweekly teaching circles we call communities of practice, where we check in with the faculty every 2 weeks and we meet via Zoom. All right. So Raleigh, please.
So the standards that Joseph mentioned are actually based on quality matters. And I think most of the people in the room here understand what quality matters is. So we took quality matter standards and we looked at them as a group, and we combined some, we got rid of some, we added some, but we're still following the 8 basic general standards of quality matters. This is the form that we use. I'm not going to, can you see this okay? Is that okay on everybody's screen? You'll notice that you've got your standards here coming down this column, like standard 1.1, 1.2, and so on. For example, instructions make clear how to get started and where to find various course components. Well, just like with Quality Matters, we use 3 course reviewers. Usually that's Joseph, it's me, and it's a subject matter expert. And we either mark the item met or not met. And, we need to agree on that. If we, especially if we say it's not met, we have to make a comment over here. But each course that comes through for development for Joseph's area, for PTE, goes through this evaluation. Any comments on that, Joseph? That's
is that for all 42 standards?
It's not all 42, but it's close.
Yeah, it's nearly all of them. And I just wanted to mention that you can see the 3 reviewers. So typically that is Raleigh, that's myself, and a disciplinary expert. In the past, it's been Veronica for the business management program. And there's an opportunity to comment there. And the thing I like about this is because not just for accreditation standards, because we all know that for accreditation standards, we need to document what is our process for certifying faculty to teach online. And so we traditionally use the IOCD, but in addition to that, we're going above and beyond our current practice of certifying faculty via the Introduction to Online Course Development. And this has taken it just a step further in terms of the standards. And it's a lot more collaborative in that, the faculty will be able to share, currently we see some opportunities where it's not met for standard 1.4, and some feedback specifically is this. And so it's very collaborative. There's opportunities to improve and address any particular gaps as well. So I just wanted to mention that. Mm-hmm. Anything else on this particular standards here? And in looking at the standards, Raleigh will show you later, and Dr. Lattis will also show you her course, so you can see how really we've created a template that helps us address some of these early standards, like the standards number 1, for example, in course overview and introduction.
So just adopting the template for PTE, you're automatically adopting most of or a lot of these standards. I mean, some of the things are out of our control, such as the alignment of the objectives with the assessments, et cetera. So I'll move to the next slide, Joseph.
So in these teaching circles, just a couple things we'll share with you guys, and my colleagues will interject as well as far as elaborate on certain things. These teaching circles, they're intended to promote a community of practice where faculty will receive continual feedback. So we'll share ideas with each other. It maintains a consistent course design and navigation, similar experience for the students, the alignment of learning outcome expectations. We're able to achieve the various standards. We share OER, for example, the various open educational resources and course delivery strategies. So on later slides, we'll share just a couple of examples. But I think the biggest thing just for me is building a sense of community, because and hopefully, others welcome to chime in as well, but I feel like better connected in knowing our faculty. In the past, I would see our adjunct faculty, and this is going to sound terrible, but sometimes I wouldn't see them for an entire semester, especially if they're teaching online. And so this allows me to interact with them sometimes as many as 6-7 times a semester during the evenings when we have our teaching circles. The other thing is, during the pandemic, not a lot of people have connections with others. I mean, in some cases, I've known some of our adjunct faculty that they may not have family or other people close by. And so this, in some cases, I've received word from some of our adjuncts that this is probably the only form of, or the longest duration of communication they've had over the courses of semester with any person. And so it's just amazing. So I feel like, especially during this pandemic, it just fosters this connectedness towards one another. So I'm just grateful that we've had an opportunity for it. And we'll share some of the specific topics in just a bit. Any questions about this or comments? All right.
Can I chime in on that, Joseph, real quick?
Please.
Just to share, like we was talking about the feedback. So I came in as an adjunct and I didn't have prior teaching experience. So in addition to having to learn Canvas and then learn, you're learning the Alamo ACEs, you're learning all these pieces. There was also, learning about where to find resources like OER, who's taught this course before that I can go to if I need an extra set of eyes, or, who's been around longer that I know is going to be a good point of contact for specific challenges. So I know even just as a new faculty person, the teaching circles help me connect dots with my go-to people for certain areas, and just kind of fostered that open communication of, hey, if you hit a snag in Canvas, you're going to maybe talk to Raleigh, or if you're looking for OER materials, to go to Joseph, or if you get given a course, which happens to us sometimes, where you may have a course given to you and maybe you don't have a lot of time to prepare it, or maybe there's not much out there that the resources wise it's already assembled for you. You have an idea of who you can contact that maybe has taught that course previously, or has enough background in it to give you insight. So there's a lot of value there beyond just the specific topics that are discussed, and the socialization or the socializing is just, the networking to know who your go-tos are for different, for different areas where you need help, which is really, I think, crucial when you're a brand new employee that's coming on. So.
Totally. And I'm drawing many insights from what you said, Dr. Lattis, and two in particular include one that we have most of our adjunct faculty on the PTE side. Many of them have worked in industry for so many years. And although they've had training opportunities, not a lot of them have had opportunities to teach. And so providing them that experience with education, like how to teach, what does it mean to teach? What does it mean to have learning outcomes? Like when I first began teaching, somebody handed me a textbook and said, good luck, make it happen. And so there was no, well, what is a learning outcome? Well, so I basically drew from what I was, those instructors, those professors that taught me, and, it wasn't a great example. So I feel bad for those first couple of years of students, but, so we're able to really help those individuals transitioning. The second insight I wanted to share, related to OER is just the type of feedback we've been able to share with one another on, this is a great resource, but have you considered this resource? So really good opportunities with that. So thank you for sharing. On the next slide, you're able to see some of the topics, and I'm just really excited that we had an opportunity to explore these topics, because I'll be honest and say that with our full-time faculty, and this is going to sound odd, but with our full-time faculty, we don't traditionally have the opportunity to engage in the extent and diversity of topics that we have with our adjunct faculty. I mean, these are, like, for example, Bloom's taxonomy. We've spent time talking about what does it mean, like the intensity of the verbs associated with the different taxonomy levels, like the understanding versus the, application of things, the alignment from SLOs to instructional activities, just the importance of alignment, so that from the program learning outcomes to the course learning outcomes to the modular learning outcomes. And as Raleigh mentioned, with Quality Matters, the importance of alignment. Alignment is all about embedded in those standards. So it's so important to achieve that. And not everyone's familiar with it. So even myself, I still struggle sometimes. And, I get some good feedback from Raleigh about, have you considered this, changing this? And so it's very helpful. Key assignments, obviously a big part of what we do at Palo Alto College. And so we're able to talk about key assignments. In fact, it's always interesting to find out we have checklists for training for faculty. And it's always interesting that during these teaching circles, I always end up finding, well, oh, really? No one ever taught you that I never addressed a certain issue with our adjunct faculty. So it's always a good reminder, like, hey, all these things that we should be onboarding our adjunct faculty, maybe if I neglected to do that, I can make sure to include some of these things in the teaching circles as well. We talk about different pedagogies, including backwards design. I won't go into detail about that. Interesting things that I really like there's a lot of really good literature about validating teaching practices that originated from Laura Rendon, where she talks about community college students who, particularly ethnic and racial minority students who perhaps feel a sense of like disengagement when both the online and the face-to-face settings. What can we do to validate their experiences? And ever since Laura Rendon wrote about that in the late 1990s, there's been a lot more articles associated with online validation. And so if you did searches on like validation, like culturally responsible online teaching, there's some really good information about that we've been able to share with our folks. And, we'll continue to have discussions about that. And that relates to engaging students online. We've talked about rubrics, like some of our faculty have shared, here's the rubric I use for this class or for this assignment. And it's been so helpful to share that and hear from others, because, each of us, we have our own rubrics. And so when you benchmark and see what other people are doing, it helps for comparison and to improve our own rubrics. Sharing progress. So we spend about 30 minutes of the 1 hour time every 2 weeks sharing, here's what I've done updating the course. Here's what I've done of lately. And that way we can see the progress made. Exploring new technologies. Mallory joins us as well. And we'll talk about, some folks may have questions about specific technologies. And then, of course, troubleshooting any course design problems. So these are just a sample of the biweekly meeting topics. And if you think there's anything, and we'll ask, is there anything you want to cover for the next time? If there's anything that you maybe think we should add, please let us know, or any questions about any of these topics, please feel free to comment or share.
I have a question and a comment. When you talk about in particular, sharing progress and sort of sharing resources outside of the 2 weeks meetings, do you have have you built in any kind of a platform to like a web page or Canvas page to share ideas or progress as you go, or pop in a rubric or things like that?
That's a good idea, having a Canvas course for the teaching circles to share. I think it would be helpful to have something like that, like a document repository that we can have within Canvas, and maybe even some discussion questions. That way it can occur. And I think probably engage other people. So I think that's a good point, because although we've averaged attendance-wise anywhere from on the low end 6 to on the high end, we've had as many as like 12, 14 people. I think those that are unable to attend, and those that are unable to attend might not be engaging in the course design aspect of it, but they're participating in, I just want to learn more via the topics. That would be a great way to engage them. So that's a good idea.
Yeah, you could also post, if you recorded it, you could post recordings or minutes or summaries for people that wouldn't be able to attend. The other thing I was talking to someone yesterday about this, the Bloom's taxonomy, just this notion that assessment or test integrity has become a big issue in this world that we're in, and faculty are finding it challenging because lots of students are cheating and finding ways to get around things, and by sort of re-examining how you assess and getting higher up on the Bloom scale, just by doing that, you're sort of reducing the ability for people to cheat and that kind of thing. So it's a good strategy to that, but also, aligning well to your learning objectives.
I think a lot of that is addressed by some of the teachers in the program. Like, for example, they'll do authentic types of assessment, like how does this relate to the business world now, or how does it relate to you? So there's no single answer for that. So it forces them to think upwards on that scale, and it's unique for each student.
And I was also going to say that one of the things that you guys did use to keep in contact was Slack. That was, they didn't have a Canvas, but they did use Slack. So that way on the days that, instructors weren't meeting, they were still able to keep in contact.
One of our faculty, Dr. Rourke, who teaches the beginning, intermediate, and advanced web programming, Slack is a communication technology that is very prevalent within the programming world. And so, so totally, Slack is something to consider using. And but we'll also look at the Canvas option.
Joseph, if I may interact, back when we started the actual design, maybe about 2 or 3 years ago, our focus, our vision was to actually create a master page as a repository for all of the changes that we were doing to the actual design of the template that we had for the vision of the department, and we created one. And it is there, but as time went on, it kind of lost its kind of pizzazz. But we do have the makings of the foundation of the actual page that we could use as a repository for all of these things regarding our design, Bloom's taxonomy, for the alignments, for all these things. We do have the actual foundation document built.
You're right, and I'm glad Russ brought it up, because I think this is one of the problems that I find with Alamo colleges in general. A lot of departments are not allowed to use web pages. Everybody's forced into Canvas or something, and sometimes that's too many clicks to get in there. And if we had something like, I don't know, just a standard web page where we could post information about Bloom's and people could easily get to it, that I think that would solve a lot of our problems. Amanda's here, and we, through this idea, we've all been challenged with this, even at the district and faculty development. How do we create a platform where people can go like a web page, but we can't use a web page and go rogue? And our Alamo pages are not easy to navigate or build. But we messed around last summer with this idea of using a LibGuide. I don't know if Amanda can, but I mean, I think that it looks like a web page. It's legal, it's internal, but and I think we may revisit that with the TLC as a platform. You can link out to it, but and I think, Amanda, it was super easy to use or to create pages and stuff, but it might be an idea. I think you're right, Russ. That's our only legal tool that we have to do that. And I know Amanda and I both worked on a TLC webpage at one point. It was quite easy to use. We just never finished it.
Yeah, it was thankfully intuitive in its design, at least.
Right.
I have a question. It seems like this would be a really good model to also try to catch issues that are going on like mid-semester in courses for things like, student retention. I was just curious, like, have you had those experiences where these teaching circles taking place biweekly have sort of helped provide like aha moments for things that can be done in semester to help out with your teaching practices?
I've experienced, I feel like at each teaching circle, there's been something, at least one thing that's been said in which a faculty member said, well, that's new to me, or, I wish I knew this sooner, whether it be, for example, in some cases for our newer faculty, how to create or add a rubric, to some other folks in terms of students who have stopped participating online for whatever reason, a particular strategy, how to connect with them, whether it be the use of, like in the grade book, how to message all students who have scored below a certain score, or any number of things. So there's been moments where I feel like every faculty has shared, and it's not necessarily something that maybe Raleigh says or Mallory or myself, but sometimes it's those insights from their peers in which they've said, well, in my course I do this, or let me share a practice that I do when this happens. And it's always just interesting that we have faculty who have may not even be here like 10, 15 years, but have something to share, and we can learn from them. And I just wish that while these teaching circles are a place where we can share those things, I just wish there was some other means for faculty to really share, and not just full-time faculty, but our adjunct faculty who have rich experiences to share as well. And I think, we have a faculty symposium and other things, but it's just, I wish there was a, kind of a easier method and, place where we have a captive audience. These teaching circles are one means, but other types of means to communicate. So thank you for your question, Scott.
Joseph, I can add to that. I've often wondered why we don't have something like a listserv for use. It could be something like a Google discussion group. I don't know what we legally have access to, but I mean, if we had some way to put people in a group, and then if I had a question for the group, it would go to everybody in the group, and it would be like continuing this conversation outside of the teaching circle. But it would
Sort of like the
to
pandemic
people.
pedagogy Facebook group,
Right,
where people just sort of go and ask questions, and then you get 1,000 answers.
right.
Very cool. Well, let's take a look at the next slide. And I think for this one, Raleigh, please.
Okay, so we have an online teaching certification course. A lot of the campuses call it OCD. Is it OCD? What is it?
I feel like it's just
Some
us.
people are OCD about it.
I think it's
Yeah, the
OTC.
ROCD. And we are too, but we're intensively OCD. We're IOCD, but it's Introduction to Online Course Design. And we changed the name of it because we separated faculty certification from course certification. And so this is just for faculty certification. And what we do is we introduce them to the online course design standards, which of course is Quality Matters. We talk about Bloom's taxonomy. How do you do, in a face-to-face classroom, we talk about teacher immediacy, like when you lean into the crowd and you talk to them, or you make eye contact. But how do you do that online? How do you do teacher presence? So we cover topics like that in this IOCD course. We talk about the use of video to do teacher immediacy or presence, to do overviews or wrap-ups for a certain topic. Like a topic begins one week, like how do you connect the dots for the students? How do you prepare them to go into that little course of study that you're about to do? So maybe there would be like a video of you talking 3 minutes, just talking about it. We talk about formative and summative assessments. And something that I like to use is Gagne's 9 events of instruction. If you're not familiar with that, take a look at that. Because what it does is it's basically a lesson design plan. And it talks about how do you catch the attention of the class, how do you deliver the content, how do you engage them to make sure that, you know, in a formative way, how do you assure that the students are where they should be without doing a heavy assessment on them? And then ultimately, how do you assessment, and then how do you take that forward? So Gagne's 9 events of instruction is pretty straightforward. It was written by Robert Gagne, and he based that on trainings, like in the military. So it's a very effective, practical way to look at instruction. And then we talk about web accessibility techniques in the course. They are actually introduced to techniques that they can learn to do in just a few minutes. Like, you know, you talk about web links. Instead of putting the HTTP in there, you need to make sure that that's legible somehow. We talk about using headings for documents, like the bold text above a paragraph. That needs to be done a certain way so that screen readers can read that. So the faculty actually learn some techniques that are easy to use, and it just kind of gets them started with accessibility. And the course, the IOCD course, also models the template that the faculty are asked to use, so that when they come out of this course 8 weeks later, they've had experience moving through the template that PTE requires faculty to use. So I'll move on to the next. Any questions about any of that? Okay. So here is an example of what the course template looks like. There is, just like with a lot of courses that you see these days, there's an orientation module for the students. And our orientation module contains this information, like what should I do first? So the students would click into that. There's a welcome from the instructor. There is a course schedule, which actually works as an alignment map. And Dr. Lares is going to show you that later. And then there's contact information. So this is pretty standard in all the courses. Then, of course, we have student resources, disability accommodations, library information. This link here, you know, when a student is in a brick and mortar environment on campus, they can walk from one building to the next and get information from, you know, registering for the next semester or whatever it is, paying a bill. So the question is, how do we do that for online students? And when we have a completely online course, we have to have some way to connect them to all those services. So inside this page, there's actually multiple links to all of those different services throughout the campus. There's tutoring, there's academic integrity, which is a little tutorial on plagiarism. There's netiquette, and then there's technical help. Like if they get stumped on something in Canvas, who do they go to for help with that? So at that point, Dr. Lares, do you want to take over and give a little tour of your course?
Sure, I can do that. I can do that. My Canvas house is clean, so I guess I can let you guys in there. So.
Okay, so.
So before we even do that, just by show of hands or unmute or reaction buttons, how many of you guys have gotten a course that you need to put together? Maybe you didn't have a lot of prep time, and you have that feeling when you like click on it and you enter the empty Canvas shell, and it's kind of like you're looking up at the top of a hill and you're just kind of peering up at it. And that's kind of what it feels like, right? Like I said, maybe you haven't even taught this before. Maybe it hasn't been taught in a minute. So you're like, okay, well, what book or what are we using? Oh, we're not sure. It hasn't been taught in a while. So you're just like, okay. And if you're like me, you're like, okay, let me go into Commons or whatever and see if there's a syllabus that maybe someone has where they've taught it before, so I can at least get ideas of resources they've used, right? You're on a scavenger hunt, it feels like. So if you can get some of the basic housekeeping done with the template, that makes you feel just slightly better, if not a lot better. So I wanted to share that with you guys. because as you're looking up at the hill, this template is going to be like little, hey, you're getting almost there signs along the way. Or if you've ever run like a marathon, it's like your little marker that says, hey, you're making progress, I promise. So it's kind of what the template does for you. It has some anxiety reducing properties to it. So I will share. Now keep in mind, you guys, this course is just a very basic, foundational, this will get you started, but it leaves you room to make it your own. And that's kind of the beauty of it. Yes, we're going to get the checks in the boxes of accessibility, of the start here, and we're going to get the housekeeping stuff out of the way, but then it's going to give the instructor opportunity to go in and really kind of play with it, right? And feel free to unmute, you guys, and interrupt, or if you want me to hover somewhere. So basically, the course that I worked on was business principles, and it uses OER materials throughout. It uses a variety of materials, so it's not just, thankfully we have a really good OpenStax text. Do any of you guys use OpenStax for your materials at this time? Okay. If that's something you're interested in checking out, they have various subjects in there. They have an app, so I tell my students about the app. Students can access chapters or material on their phones quite easily. They have some teacher resources like slides and stuff. I pick and choose some of their slides and resources because like Russ alluded to, cheating is quite easy when you get, for example, test questions that are in a bank that are already prepared for you. One of the first things I do is Google it to see if I can find the answer, because if I can find it, I know they likely can, right? So what it does though is it gives you, oh good, Elizabeth used it. But what it does is it gives you just a good, something basic that they can use that I like the fact it's friendly on different devices. So there's some OpenStax, there's articles, there's a variety of materials because you have some learners that are visual, some, like a book, some need a video. So you're going to find there's a mix in here. And like any course, it's going to need updating periodically, right? So this is going to give you a basic framework, but then you're going to plug not only yourself into it, but maybe things that are a bit more applicable. So you've got, the basic come on in homepage, right? And then it's broken down much as Raleigh showed us. So you've got your faculty resources. Here I can make notes if there's something I know I need to revisit before I'm going to launch the class again. I'll make little notes down here. Maybe there's an article I'm using that is outdated. Maybe there's been changes. I try to apply real life stuff going on within my course because it's going to make it relevant to them, but also, as Russ alluded to, the cheating part. So a lot of my assignments are, kind of inserting creativity so that A, it does avoid the cheating piece, but B, they can also incorporate their own experiences and perspectives into their work. And I find that I learn a lot more about them as people when they're undertaking assignments where they're sharing their own perspective or experiences. Instead of waiting to the end to really feel like I know them, I get pieces beyond a meet and greet discussion as a result of that. So it's very insightful. So you've got, like your usual stuff, right? A little bio sig going on here in the beginning. I have the general question area because stuff's going to pop up that maybe they have questions about. They can share those questions to the benefit of their peers here. And then I've got it broken down into modules. This particular course is broken down into 8. What's nice about it is with the template, if you're adjusting from an 8 to a 4-week course, you can do that relatively easily. I've had to do that before. I've also used this template to teach the special needs students this semester. And you're just making small changes that maybe kind of tailor it to your audience, whether it's a time frame basis, whether it's, the intellectual capacity. So for example, for my intellectually challenged students, I have the Zoom option in my settings where they can click on Zoom and then it takes them to the link for that class. So they're not inputting ID numbers or passwords. It's just one click. And to be honest, I've started doing that in my other classes too. That way I'm not getting the, hey, I can't get into the room. What's the code again? Message 10 minutes into class, right? It kind of takes the guesswork out of getting into class. So you can easily tweak your menu on the side too. But as we, discussed, there's that overview. And now I don't have videos in this particular course. I do a lot of videos in my announcements with Canvas. How many of you guys, by reaction buttons or show of hands, have utilized that feature within your announcements of being able to just create a video within your announcements in Canvas? Have you guys tried that yet? It's awesome, right? Kind of like, have you guys done audio or video feedback on assignments? Have you guys tried that?
I've done that, actually not in higher ed, but in middle school. It worked really well for students to communicate with me and for me to communicate with them, either using the video announcements or the email video feature too. Especially with music students, I could have them send in little snippets of what music they were working on, play me a scale, send it to me in email, that sort of thing.
Yes, excellent.
I think it really helps and I've done that in SpeedGrader, in announcements, and also with discussions. So doing video discussions versus written discussions, and I think another added benefit to that is just increasing instructor presence in the course, you know, being a real person and showing yourself, and that has a lot of value as well.
Sure. Thanks, you guys. So yes, the videos, and I currently, this is my first semester, I've been using Blackboard with a different school, and it's made me appreciate Canvas that much more because I feel like it makes it easy to do those things. You know, with Blackboard, you make a video and then you have to insert it and tinker around. Canvas, you just click and there you go. And if you're having a bad hair day and you just want to do audio, you get to do that too. I've done it with my iPad even, just grading on my recliner chair with my iPad, and I'm leaving a nice little audio feedback. So it just makes it really simple to incorporate, because they hear the enthusiasm and the inflection in your voice. And I've had students who will email me after and be like, you know, thank you for that encouragement, and you know, what you said about my paper, it made me feel really good, because they can hear it, right? So you're engaging their senses. So the beauty of the template is it's the cake without the icing. You get to add your own icing to this cake, but you know it's going to taste good either way. So that's the beauty of the template, right? Again, I don't have a video in here because I kind of leave it with here's what we're going to learn. And then I like to say why you need to know this. And I pull it into, okay, you're a business student. Here's why this is going to matter. You know, you're going to need to be able to do this in your workplace, whether in your leadership role or, you know, it gives them insight. And then how are you going to learn? So I talk about we're going to use this different materials. Moving forward, I think there's some potential opportunity with some new features in Canvas where I could clean this up and make it look a little more fun, accordion style, design plus elements. But yes, so it is a little wordy. But then I also pick a piece of the course map. So there's the full course map is available in the Start Here module. But what I do then is I pull that chunk that has to do with what they're going to learn about this week, and it's broken down in a way that makes sense, right? Here's your outcome, the materials you're going to use, how you're going to engage with those materials, and then you're going to have the following assessments. I typically will have a discussion of some kind, a reflection style paper, and then a low stakes quiz that's just kind of for just memory and recall. So that's the way I have it. I've created material like the PowerPoint sometimes, and I know you guys have probably experienced this by show of hands or reaction buttons. How many of you guys have said, gosh, I can't find a good resource for this. I'm just going to make my own. How many of you guys have ever done that? And you end up feeling better about what you created, right? Because sometimes the books, I feel like they have holes in them. Or maybe you just need to give something life, especially if it is a topic that is dry and you just need to give it some life and that textbook is just not doing it. Sometimes you can find videos or articles or illustrations or TED Talks or just, you know, and you can just embed and make the stuff yourself, right? So I have like a PowerPoint in here that I actually created to just pull the main points. I didn't want them jumping chapters. So that's the overview. Pretty self-explanatory, right? And I am a fan of having links to everything. So if there's a web page or something I need them to go to, I'm probably going to have a hyperlink. And this is just a me thing, this next piece of the module. So this is just a me thing. I have it in here and and that's a nice thing too, you guys, with the template. If someone goes to teach this particular course and they're like, I don't like the to-do list, guess what? Just hide it. It's not that serious. Or if you want to have your instructional materials broken out, Joshua Garcia, if that's what you prefer, not a big deal, you guys. Pick it apart, do what you want to do, right? So that's the beauty of it. So I prefer to give them a suggested order. And I tell them this is an optional order, you guys. And I do it this way because not all of my work that I assign is due on Sunday. I have different due dates. So what I like to do is direct them to the material first that's going to be what's called upon for their deliverables first. So I like to kind of connect them in a succession. I've actually had students that message me that like this because it helps them manage the order of the tasks. Some of them need this. I think sometimes as instructors, we have the tendency to be like, well, when I was a student, I knew I was, jumped right in my book and I knew exactly what I needed to do. Well, newsflash, we have a unique group in our classroom these days, right? Some of them need a little bit more guidance. And so the to-do list is an option that can offer that if you find that you want to. And then I have links to everything. So they can go right in here if they want, right? Plus, sometimes they can look at this and be like, cool, I'm already on number 4 out of 9 things. And they feel like they've done something. It's almost like a progression of sorts for them to look at it. So that's why I have it in here. Again, it's totally optional. And interrupt me, you guys, if you have questions along the way here. I will tell you, how many of you guys have discussion board assignments within your courses by show of hands, reaction buttons? Discussion boards? Okay. Well, I was like today years old, this semester years old, when I realized that you can create a setting in there so that they don't see what's in there until they post first, so that you can avoid duplication, because I have assignments that are like, pick a manager, real or fictitious, and answer the following questions about them. And so I would have like multiple people that would try to maybe pick the same business or manager. So I love that feature in Canvas. If you've not noticed that already, you can set it where they go into a discussion board and they can't see anything until they have created an initial post. So that is pretty awesome. One of those things I wish I had known about, but that's okay. So here I have all their instructional materials under one umbrella. Again, I have it linked, easy peasy. And I'm just going to go back into the module real quick. And I made sure to, and this is a lesson learned, I include page numbers and section numbers, because with the OpenStax resources, they can download that text. And so the page number on the PDF versus the website may be different. So I've found that oftentimes when I'm referring to electronic texts, it's a good idea to specify section numbers and pages so they don't get confused. And then I have my assignments. And again, to try and avoid plagiarism, but also to give them opportunity to make an assignment their own. I have a lot of opportunities where they can, make something up or name something real that they have experience with, whether it's picking apart a manager or the reflection paper for this particular module. I have them just go over some of the roles of a manager we learned about. And then I have them analyze, what roles do you think you would be really good at? And what roles do you think you would find more challenging and why? And so they start to tell me about their personality, or what department of a business do you think you would find most intriguing based on, marketing, accounting, things we talked about this week, versus which one do you think you might be less happy in? And so it causes them to kind of think about, well, I really like accounting, here's why. And you start to kind of learn about them when you give them opportunities like that to plug themselves into what they're learning about. Or, it could be as simple as, talk about a topic that we discovered in class this week. And what did you find the most interesting about it or whatnot? And then finally, we have to pull it all together in the summary. We don't have much time. I think the hook is coming. Sorry, I get excited. I already warned them about this. So finally, as we wrap things up, you've got your summary, right? Here's where we started. Here's where we ended up. Why does it matter? So I refer back. And again, this is in the video opportunity. What we did, what we learned, and CLO stands for course learning outcome. So I pulled the module elements that go to the particular course learning outcomes or objectives that we talked about. So when they refer back to those 11, they know, okay, we covered 10 and 1 this week. And then I go into the what's next. And typically in the what's next with each week, or even in the overview, I build off what we talked about last time. And then finally, in this particular course, their final exam is actually a project. It is a group project. So I've incorporated group work into this course with some tools like the Canvas groups, and they actually create a project versus a standardized test as they wrap up the course. So I'm going to relinquish my share. And at this time, do you have any questions, you guys, offhand? And again, it's not perfect. It's just the rough cake. So,
Dr. Lattes, can you remind us, how long have you been teaching?
I've been teaching since I physically took my first class in spring 2020, and I started in fall of 2019.
Think about that for a moment. I mean, the quality of what I see is just amazing. Like, I am mind blown. The more I think about, Dr. Lattes has only been teaching for less than 2 years, I mean, that is just
Thank
amazing.
you.
I think about all that she has shared. I think about the quality of the design, how she engages students. And I think about, my experience and how it took me many, many years, and I'm still trying to get there. And think about so many of our faculty. And so as I think about the quality and the importance of this teaching circle, just listening to Dr. Lattis, I'm just so, kind of just reinvigorated that, this is exactly why we need these type of teaching circles, and not just in our department, but I think across the entire college. So, Raleigh, I'm sorry if you could, we still have a couple more things just to share, but we're almost done. Thank you so much for bearing with us. And so you can see that the outcomes, in some cases, we are needing to develop new courses, because anytime you have an associate of applied science degree in a workforce area, like for example, we just developed a marketing specialization. We're going to have 2 new courses that have never been taught. And so we need to develop those. And how else are we going to develop them? Well, this standard, this excellence in online design standards, the teaching circles will help. We'll be able to continually update existing courses. So we have all these courses that have been developed. And so just evaluating them every 2-3 years to see what other updates can we make, and to ensure that all of our adjunct faculty have proficiency, create this community of support and resources. Our aspirations in the future are to create a centralized course development repository, just to keep track of, here's all the courses that we have, better documentation. So, we got some good feedback from Russ, from Scott and others. And so just improving our documentation, surveying the faculty to determine what else can we do to improve this. But we're just so grateful that you were able to join us today. I'm excited and really just, think about the possibilities that there can be. So any feedback, questions, or comments?
Joseph, what I see, the actual template design, I see it as a roadmap, which helps me along the way. If it is an OER course, then I know that my outcomes have to be answered and the objectives are there. So that's how I utilize the actual roadmap. I know where I can stop, I know where I can yield, and I know where I can go. And this design does it for me.
I think one of the things, and Jennifer, you had this well done on your page, but I did a horrible job. My course navigation for years on my homepage and just the was not good. And I remember having like I don't know, a 7-page thing for students to read and when they came into the course, and I adopted, or I took Raleigh's template and just used the first part, the first module, or the introduction, just the way it's structured to guide students and make it navigation super easy, and create that start here page, and adding, for example, like the syllabus quiz or scavenger hunt. It just has made an incredible difference in student success from the get-go, and expectations being clear, and students not getting lost, and all of these. There's a host of things that benefit students. And on the flip side, this is always the WIFM, the what's in it for me for faculty is anytime you spend time working or adjusting things, sort of what are the benefits for me? How is it going to impact me? And in this case, I mean, I cut down on the amount of emails that I would get asking for clarifying questions, and students being lost and just not understanding things, significantly reduced, and more clarity. So there's a lot of value in all these in terms of in terms of alignment, for sure, in terms of just smart course design, and then And then addressing accessibility issues too, which is challenging, but yeah, so good stuff.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well, we're just really excited that you can join us today. There's going to be much more to come, and I think with Raleigh and Mallory, and just I think about what used to be and what we have now, and we are so blessed. So we're grateful for all the support we receive. Thank you all for joining, and we'll stay on the line in case anyone has any additional questions. And there is a survey that Mallory is posting in the chat. If you guys could please help us complete that.
It's